Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'd like to show you how I inspect my crankshafts once I've disassembled them. In this case it's a Kawasaki H1 KH500. As you can see here laid out is most of the components, so I'll run through my procedure, how I actually do it. First thing I do is take a measurement or take a picture of the layout of the crankshaft itself. Taking into consideration some main bearings have a little circlip locator. You must get this correct, otherwise when you take the crankshaft apart from this end and you've actually finally completed it all, if this is wrong you have to take all these apart again, work your way back again, which is lots of hours wasted. So take detailed measurements and pictures of the crankshaft itself before you split it. So here we have the crankshaft laid out, and some of the things I'll run through on this model which are quite important. The first being they have what you call an oil plate. Now this is designed for the oil to get behind. It spits flush up against the bearing like this, and the oil gets in behind through the bearing and gets centrifugally forced outwards and into the crankshaft itself, and then up through the crank pin, which these are handed. You must make sure you get these in the correct way, and you've got a little oil hole there which faces upwards to the bottom of the conrod itself, the top part of the conrod. So you must get these handed, and that big hole goes to the side which has the oil plate. So that all goes in, across, through the crank pin and up into the big end. Make sure you get them in correct, otherwise you're not going to get the correct amount of flow of oil to the big end bearings. Secondly, make sure these oil plates, which have are like a rubber lip on the top here, which actually seals against the main bearings themselves, like this. Make sure this isn't cracked or damaged. Make sure it's in good condition, as in this case they are. They can be used again. And when you put these in, always make sure you lock tight those screws in, because you don't want any kind of metalwork or anything coming loose and getting into the cylinder crankcase itself, or both, which it will do. And another one that I do is the actual main seals, and as you can see, this one here, just look closely here, it's started to break up and it has one or two cracks in it. So make sure that's in good condition, if not replace. And then the mating surface which goes inside that seal, make sure that's in good condition. As you can see, it's just got polish marks on this and it's still in good condition, so that can be used again. As you can see here, the seals have shot, you know, that they should stand tight in there, and the slack will just fall through. So it needs new mains, seals, conrods, the full Monty, this crankshaft, unfortunately. That's how it goes sometimes. And another good thing on the Kawasaki is they have a pin. When you press in the main bearing shaft in, they've got a little locating pin there and a dowel in the other side. I don't know whether you can see the dowel, but you look closely there and you can see the little dowel just in there, the little locating dowel. When you press them apart, these sometimes stay in because they're peened over, just to stop them coming out this way, stop them coming out. If they are like that, leave them as they are, and then when you put them back together again, that acts as a guide. So luckily this one here has stayed in, and it can't come this way because the actual hole is nearer to the side of the web, so the little gap underneath is smaller there than it is at the top, so it can't drop out that way. So leave those in if you can, and make sure they're straight and they'll line up again later. And the final thing on any crankshaft which has lead fillers, these lead fillers in here, check them very carefully just to make sure they're not slack. If they are, this is how you tighten them up. So I'll take the camera off the tripod and we'll go over to the press and I'll show you how you do it. So I'll come over here, and as you can see I've got a web in the press there, and all you do is put a little pin slightly smaller than the diameter of the lead weight itself, which I'll try and show you there, and with the corresponding pin at the top you just press it gently to squash the lead out in the actual web itself, and that makes it rock tight. As you can see there, this one's been done. You can see the little indentations in there. Now they're rock solid now. If there's anything sticking out over the top, just trim that off with a knife so it's flush with the inside and the outside. So that's quite a simple procedure to do. You can see it there. That's one that I've cleaned up earlier, and all these are intact. All these fillers and the leads, they're all tight now. So coming back over to the bench, and you can see the whole thing laid out there precisely as it goes back together. So that's what you're looking for. Things to look for. As you can see here, it's pretty dirty. And another thing I'd mention is on the inside of these oil plates they have a little recess which the oil floats along. These get centrifugally full of dirt. As you can see, there's some there, pretty dirty. You must remove all that. You don't want that horrible gunge which is embedded there, softening once you use the engine again and then working its way to the big end. You don't want that dirt going through the big end, so make sure they're clean as well. Pretty good crankshafts to do these because everything's thought out, and the crank pins, once they're pressed in, you can see the little oil hole there. Once the crank pins are pressed in and flush with the inside of the webs, it leaves the correct amount of thrust gap basically between that and the con rod. So that's the layout, and as per usual I use my homemade puller which I've showed before there. That's my homemade puller with the 4 hooks, and the other one to get the smaller bearings out is, where have I put it? It's about somewhere. To get the smaller ones out, let's have a look. Where is she? Where have we put it? Ah, there she is. And that's just a cheap Sealy, that's like ball in bearing puller for the smaller ones. Do the smaller ones with that one and the larger bearings with the other puller. So you only need 2 simple pullers, or however how you want to do it. You take the crankshaft apart and gently and correctly without damaging it. You definitely can't damage these washers here because they're really hard to get hold of today. Look after those, and like I say, make sure the edges are not cracked along this little seal edge here. So that's the Kawasaki H1 500 3-cylinder engine crankshaft. So in the next video I'll show you how I put it all back together, which is basically a reverse of how it came to pieces. So thank you all again for watching.